Working Cows Podcast, episode 118.
Welcome to the podcast that gives producers a platform to discuss and share paradigm-challenging practices. Practices that have increased the effectiveness of their operation and the joy that their families have received from this lifestyle.
Howdy, everybody. It's Clay Connery, host of the Working Cows Podcast, powered by the Global Ag Network. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all that. Good to have you with us for another episode. We're talking today to Marcos Jeffers. He is from Jeffers Cattle Company in the Chihuahuan Desert region of Mexico, and really interesting history there with him and his family, and doing some neat stuff, and been able to see an increase in their stocking rate over the last few years of implementing some pretty intensive management and grazing practices, and really looking forward to talking to him. Stick around after the show and I'll share with you some news about an event that I will be participating in January. But for now, Marcos, thanks for joining me today on the Working Cows Podcast.
Thank you, Clay. Thanks for having me.
So I guess where I would like to start out is if you would just share with me kind of your neighborhood and what the resources that you have available to you are, as far as kind of the rainfall resources and the animals that you guys are running, and what's there, what's available on the range, some of those things.
All right. Basically, what we have now we have very little infrastructure, hardly any infrastructure. Basically, what we have is you could call it perimeter fencing, and that includes maybe 3 or 4 permanent fences. So everything I use is portable. I go portable, even with my storage, water tanks, even with fencing. Everything I have is portable, so I can pick up and move. I was actually listening to one of your podcasts from Joel Salatin, and everything he says in his podcast is basically, is basically what we're doing right now. We have a daily move. We move once a day and have water in every single paddock, which is the challenge there. But like I say, everything's portable. Everything's ready to pick up and move. So right now we've been getting these past 10 years, our average rainfall is about 10 inches per year of rainfall. And we're in northwestern Chihuahua, and we're in the foothills of the they call it the Sierra Madre, which is a big mountain range that basically runs from central Mexico up to you could say New Mexico, Colorado, almost. It's the continental divide.
Right.
So we get a little more rainfall than most people do, but that comes with not. We have a lot colder weather than also most people do, but life is good.
Right. What kind of cattle are you running?
We run 100% Black Angus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Everyone thinks just because we're in Mexico, no, we don't run Corrientes. We don't run. No, we like our good cattle here too. So, we run right now. It's 400 cow-calf pairs with room to grow. We run them on 7,000 acres. We run about from 9 acres per cow per year to 7 acres, depends on the place. So it's highly efficient. Like I say, it's I don't like to call it a certain name. What I do, like you could call it holistical management, mob grazing, strip grazing. There's a million different names for it. I just like to think of it as smart ranching. That's what I like to think of it. I run 400 cow-calf pairs by myself. I don't have any employees, so I do all my fencing. I do it all myself. So you could say I don't have hardly any well, I don't have hardly any overhead at all.
Right.
My cost to raise a cow calf pair is $40 per cow calf a year. So, I mean, when you can raise a $40 dollar calf and sell it for 700 on the border, well, that's pretty good profit, I could say.
Yeah, not too shabby. It's incredible what you're doing there, because my regional average rainfall is 14 inches. And if you go out and ask any rancher, just if you take a pick, you're bound to run into somebody who would tell you it's going to take you 40 acres to run a cow-calf pair for a year. And you're getting less rain and doing it on, a quarter or less acres than that. So that's pretty crazy. What has the management always been that way? Have you always been using these methods on the ranch, and has that stocking rate been consistent throughout the history of the ranch, or have you guys been able to see an increase due to a change in management?
We've increased the stocking rate significantly the past 4 years when we started putting, you could say, more animal impact, more having your daily move. But the ranch, like I say, it's been managed the last 15 years holistically. So you could say it's not overgrazed at all. So I guess I kind of have an advantage there, but any rainfall we do get, it penetrates 100%. I have dirt water tanks that haven't had water in them for the past 4 years. In the past 2 years, we've had nearly 22 inches of rain. So we've doubled our average, and they still don't get water. So that tells you something, that we don't have hardly any erosion, any runoff. So anything it rains, it goes down into pretty, you could say, effective, like I keep saying. But
right, how much rain do you get doesn't really matter. How much do you get to keep? That's what really matters.
Exactly. So I don't really try looking at how much rain we get. I try looking at how much grass we grow. I strongly believe that the best way to ranch is to focus on your ground, on what your ground, your grass is basically, your soil health is basically what's going to give you money at the end of the day. That's the way I like to look at it.
Yep. You agree with Burke Tigert, so you're in good company.
All right.
He said when he was first started ranching, he loved his cows. And then when he learned a little bit more, he loved his grass. And now he's starting to realize that really what's more important is to love your soil. And
yeah, exactly.
So I opened this up to my private Facebook group to ask some questions, and they just really blew me away with some questions. So I think the first one we're going to hit is, can you tell me about the local stocking rates and local land rent rates?
Well, people down here, they usually run, since everything here is in the metric system, it's hectares. I'm not really used
divided by
acres.
2.5.
Exactly. So everyone usually here runs, what would you say, about 15 hectares per cow per year, to 15 to 20. And then way out in the desert, you could say 30 hectares per cow per year. And that's
35 acres to...
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what most people run. And the rent for land depends on the person leasing the land, on the owner. A lot of the time, people lease land for $8 per cow per month to $20-$25, depends on the care. Like it depends if they give it a mineral program, if they vaccinate it. It depends on the person.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you could call it cheap or expensive. I call it expensive because I'm used to it. So
you call it expensive because it costs you $40 a year to raise a calf.
Yeah, exactly.
So infrastructure costs per acre, what would that be normally, or if you have an idea what that might be, and then what is yours?
Infrastructure, you people here hardly don't have any infrastructure. They they live year round surviving on their dirt stock tanks. That's basically it. If they get any rain that year, they'll put another 100 head in. If they don't get any rain, they'll sell out. It doesn't make any sense to me, but that's how most people do it. Now, the people that do have good infrastructure, they usually have poly pipe with some sort of well or something like that. For us, what my dad did 20 years ago. He basically we built a dam up in the mountains. Half of our ranch, like I said, is we're at 5,000 feet. The other half is about 9,000 feet. So we're pretty high up there.
Mm-hmm.
And that half of the ranch, we built a dam up there, and we pipe the water. We have a grid over the entire ranch with 2-inch poly pipe. So we get free water from July until, you could say, April. So,
Hmm.
and that infrastructure, obviously, it's going to cost you a little more, but maybe 80 grand. But like I say, people down here, I don't understand it. I guess I'm from a different school, since I've worked in Nebraska, I've worked in South Dakota, I've worked in Colorado at big cattle ranches. So I guess it was an eye opener, and I realized you have to have good infrastructure, good cattle, just to compete in today's markets. But yeah, it's we have. You could say, I don't want to brag, but we have pretty good infrastructure compared to everyone around.
Is there any supplement? Do the cows get any supplement?
Um, I I'm still stuck in the holistical way. I don't believe in supplement. So basically, what I do, my year-round schedule for my cattle. So there's this theory in strip grazing, you have to give a whole lot of supplement and supplement them all year. So what I like doing is, I calve in the summer. So once they start calving in July, I open up their paddocks big time. And our rainy season is from July until September. When we get all the monsoons, we get quite a bit of rain in 3 months.
Hmm.
So I build bigger paddocks, let them calve with ease. I don't put them in calving lots. I don't calve them out. If they don't survive on their own, there's no sense of having them there. So
I agree.
the only thing I do is I feed mineral and protein all year.
Okay.
Mineral and salt. I mean, sorry,
Okay.
mineral and salt. Yeah, but protein. And then when I wean in February, what I do then is cut down the paddocks and move strip graze them 25 times a day. Move them 25 times a day. Just get as high your highest stock density you can possibly get. So from February until June, it's high stock density, and they start calving in July and open them up. Open them up and let them selectively graze. I'm not saying selectively graze all 7,000 acres. Let them
Right.
selectively graze half an acre or a fourth of an acre, and move them every single day.
This would be more in line with the Ian Mitchell Innes type of grazing,
Exactly.
then, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
And for
kind of
those that
messed
aren't
up.
familiar, there's the two schools of thought when it comes to ultra high density grazing. There's the selective and non-selective grazing, and we're talking today about selective grazing. So that is, just wanted to say that, and we'll someday, maybe I'll get around to being able to talk to somebody about some non-selective grazing. But today we're talking about selective grazing. So
Well, we selective graze only. Well, you could say when they're calving and the cows have a calf by their side, just so the nutritional requirements of the calf, you won't. And the cow has enough milk, the calf can grow. But when we wean them, we It goes from partly selective to non-selective, but we move 2,000 cows per hectare. I don't have 2,000 cows, obviously,
right.
but it's the density. I move it every half an hour. I move 400 cows. So I mean, it's
Wow.
highly efficient. I don't have any overhead hardly.
What are you using for your infrastructure to move them every day, or move them not every day, but multiple times a day?
Basically, right now, what we did is we just have 3/8 fiberglass posts. We have polywire, braided polywire, 9-strand braided polywire, a 10 joule energizer, a solar energizer, because and that's about it. A portable water tank. I made it out of an old minivan frame.
So you can drive it?
We can pull it with a 4-wheeler, pull it
Okay.
with whatever. And behind the water tank, I have a kilometer of pipe that I drag behind it. So basically, I have over, I think it's 330 different paddocks right now. So every paddock I have has water in it. So it doesn't matter where they are or where they're gonna have fresh water. My rest days are 300 days rest days. That way I have a 60-day raining season. So basically, I move once a day, use one paddock of a quarter of an acre for 24 hours, you could say. I use 10 hectares for 24 hours for basically all year. So,
Gotcha.
And people think that just by having them confined like that is non-selective grazing. I see it different. If you move them once a day, obviously you're gonna prefer, like, if a human if I go to a steakhouse, I'm not gonna order the same thing every single day. So what the cows get in their paddock every single day is going to be different. They're, instead of eating well from, like, say, in a conventional grazing operation, they'll eat well from when it rains until it freezes. Selective, everything that's good, any perennial, anything that is nutritious. And in my case, they don't eat well. How do I explain it? They'll eat well every single day all year instead of eating well 3 months out of the year.
Right. Yep.
That way it cuts down on my overhead of protein, which I don't have any, but that's basically how I roll.
Love it. So let's talk a little bit more about this water system. You've got a dam up in the mountains, and it's gravity flowing out of there through poly pipe that is underground. And
yeah, that's right.
And then it's that poly pipe's coming up above ground in how many locations so that you have access to it in these 300 plus paddocks?
Right now it flows, like I said, gravity flown. You could say almost 10 kilometers to where we have our headquarters. From the headquarters, we have a storage tank, a 500,000 liter storage tank on top of a mountain, and it gravity flows up to the storage tank. Obviously, the storage tank is lower than the dam, so it flows up there, and from there we have one main line, 2-inch line that goes through the middle of. Like I say, I don't have any infrastructure, so it goes through the middle of the big paddock, like you could say, through the middle of the big paddock, and then from there, I connect a smaller pipe to the portable watering tank. Every 500 meters, I have a different hydrant. Usually, my fences are 10 hectares. My paddocks are 10 hectares. So in 10 hectares, I build them 500 by 200, 500 meters by 200 meters. So it's a rectangle. From there, I have, and like I say, the pipe I pull behind is 1 kilometer long. So it gives me 1 kilometer on both sides to get water from, basically.
Very cool.
Do I explain myself, or
yes,
is it
no,
kind of?
No, I got it. I'm a very visual person, but you're laying it out well. Thank you. It's good. At what level of density, as far as grazing, did the improvement in forage quantity pay for the infrastructure?
Yeah, you could say above 100 cows per hectare. But like right now, when they're calve, right now I'm running maybe 40 cows per hectare per year. But like I say, when I wean, I put it on them, and the more cows per hectare you have, the more manure they'll leave, the more urine they'll leave. So I've tested it out. I've had one paddock where I do it 2,000 cows per hectare, and there I can run probably 4 acres per cow per year. I'm not saying my entire ranch is like that, but that certain paddock where I ran 2,000 cows per hectare for of density for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, it's improved dramatically. I'm even astonished. All of the 15 years we've been holistically managing, I don't think we've improved as much as the past 4 years that we put higher stock density in.
Do you feel like there's a point of diminishing returns as far as density is concerned? Is there a point where it's too dense and you're not getting the benefit?
No, as long as they don't come back. What I was doing is have them in a little cell for 15 minutes, move the cows, move the water, move the fence, and don't let them step on that ground until 300 days. So there's no overgrazing, no undergrazing. And the manure there, it's like almost plowing and fertilizing and seeding with a tractor.
Right. Gardening with livestock. That's what
exactly
Roland Cruz calls it.
Uh-huh.
So Alyssa Falomir says, hopefully he will mention how moisture rainfall events have played a major role in your management. Can you talk about that?
They play a role. Since like I said, right now we get our monsoon season, heavy monsoon season from July to September. But like this year, it didn't rain July or August. We didn't get a drop of rain in July and August. So what happened? We had some moisture in the roots of the grass. So we had green grass come up just because of the roots. But when it did rain in September, our grass had already stemmed out. It was already stemmed out. And luckily we didn't get our first freeze until 2-3 weeks ago. So it had, I like to call it an Indian summer here. We had cool nights, really warm days. So it made up for that, for the no rainfall we got in July and August. And we grew some grass. But what was the question again? I'm going off track here.
Yeah, no, it's good. They were just wondering how the rainfall events have played a major role in your management. I don't know if there are moments of heavy rainfall where things get really trampled on. Some people would say pugged out. I don't know what you would say, but over impacted maybe it would be the way some people think about it. And then on the other end of that extreme is, like you said, missing out on rain in July and August. What kind of difference did that make? So,
no, yeah, for sure. There's like today, it's actually raining. We've gotten maybe 1.5 inches of rain since this morning. So, what I did early this morning, I moved the cows earlier so they won't, I guess, like you said, pug it up, but give them a bigger area so they can trample on. Because when it rains, everyone knows your cows are going to walk the fence. It's almost a written law. So just give them a bigger area. Obviously, you're going to have to sacrifice a paddock like Greg Judy does, but here is a lot harder ground than it is in central United States, I think you could say.
The improvement in the land has come only through getting cows on at high density and getting them off and letting it rest. There hasn't been any bale grazing or anything like that used to improve the land.
No bale grazing. It doesn't have to be extremely high density either. It's going to take longer, obviously, but well, yeah, no bale grazing. Basically, if there's spots that need work, I move the mineral feeders, put the water tank over that. Just as simple as it can be. If you start making it too complicated, obviously it's not gonna be profitable. But the rain hasn't really changed my management, since rain is something you cannot control. Obviously it's not gonna change the way you're gonna do or something. Well, it is, but you can't control rain, so I guess you'll see year by year. That's why I calve once a year. I calve from July to September, so there's green grass, everything's good, plenty of water. There's certain things you can do to avoid a disaster, but if it doesn't rain, it doesn't rain.
Sure. Yeah, very cool. And I see you just started an Instagram page. I'm looking forward to linking to some of those pictures at the show notes page for today. workingcows.net/118 will be the show notes page for today. workingcows.net/118. Let's talk about the choice to use Black Angus cattle. Did you have to do anything to select for cattle that could survive in your environment? Do you feel like there has been a process of weeding out weaker animals in that way, or what do you think about that?
Well, obviously there has been a process. We can sorting off anything that's pure junk. Like I say, I've worked in ranches in Nebraska. I don't understand why they calve in calving lots. I don't understand why they pull calves. I've been on a ranch for the past, you could say, 21 years of my life. I think I've maybe pulled one calf. I went to Nebraska not knowing how to calve because our calves were rustic. Our cattle was rustic. Obviously, they didn't calve on their own. They weren't there. So, it was kind of an eye opener when I went to Nebraska and helped calve out. And I'm like, hey, why don't you guys sleep? You guys pull too many calves. Just let the cows work. But I couldn't comprehend. So natural selection, basically. We went with Black Angus. My great grandfather went with Black Angus since 1940. You know what? My dad's here. He's the one that started with Black Angus. But overall, we were. I guess you could say I like Black Angus. Basically, that's it.
Well, there's a premium, and you guys have an ability to market and capture that premium. I mean, you guys are probably getting more for your cattle than some of your neighbors that are marketing what people might think of as a more traditional Mexican cow, right?
Exactly, for sure. I'm not saying that everyone's cows are ugly or wrong in any way, but Black Angus, we just started doing it basically because of fertility. They were highly fertile, more fertile than I'm going to say Brahma cross, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. But highly fertile. They can small frame. The smaller the frame, the better it is. The less it's going to cost you to maintain it. The less it's going to cost you to raise a cow calf pair. Just overall, everything's just a benefit, I guess you could say.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate your time today. I got kind of one last question I'd like to get your answer to, and that is, what has this style of management done to improve not just the amount of grass, but the diversity of grass? And could you talk a little bit about that?
Diversity. We've had diversity. We had all sorts of the amount of grass is the difference there. Like I say, we can run 10 times more grass now than more cattle right now on 7,000 acres. Like I say, is we're running 400 cow-calf pairs. I think it's kind of ridiculous, but it's what we're doing right now. And I need for all the grass I made last year, I need nearly 650, 700 cow-calves. That's just to finish what I made. And that's where I'm running into problem now. I have too much grass for the cattle I have. And it's a good problem to have, don't get me wrong. But since I want the high density, the higher your density and the less cattle you have, the longer it takes you to make your way around the ranch, the more rest days you have. And I want to keep it in the 300-day rest period, so they have good grass all year. There's people that do intensive grazing and they rest for 18 months. And I don't quite understand that either. By the 300 days, it loses so much protein, like nutritional value. I don't know. If you could graze it all when it's green here, well, that would be the best thing to do. But no, I don't.
Right. Do you guys keep your heifers?
Yeah, we keep all our heifers every year. Haven't sold a heifer in 7-8 years, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we started out with 15 cows, and that was 15 years ago, actually. Yeah.
Wow.
Now we're looking into running either more cattle, renting out land, or I have too much grass right now, so there's a million things we can do. And there's time and opportunity to grow, so I'm all for it.
Cool.
I'm only 21,
exciting.
So I have a whole lot of years in front of me.
Very good. Yeah, I was just at Wally Olson's marketing school, and he said he's got a triangle, and he puts grass and money on the bottom of that triangle and cattle at the top of it. And he says you always have grass and money. You don't always have to have cattle. If you try to put the cattle somewhere else on that triangle and you run out of grass or money, the triangle tips over. So you're on the right track.
Yeah, I sure hope so.
That's really exciting stuff. It's cool to talk to you, and I'd love to talk to you more about how your business develops in the future and some decisions you guys make as you continue to see an improvement of the key resources of land, animals, and people. All right.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Thanks for your time. Anything you want me to throw in there as links at the show notes page? Any resources or anything else?
Basically, anything I do, I either put it on Instagram. I know I sound like a millennial, but sorry, that's what I am. But anything I do is on Instagram at Jeffers Cattle Co. But yeah, basically that's it. Thank you for having me on.
Sure.
Had a great time.
Oh, thank you. It was very good. I look forward to getting it out. So
I'm a big fan of your podcast also. Listen to it weekly.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Coming up next week on the show, I'm talking to Glenn Elzinga of Alder Spring Ranch in Idaho. Really looking forward to that conversation with him. So don't miss that one. I will be speaking at the Holistic Canada Conference on Sunday, February 2nd in Edmonton or near Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. If you're interested in that, you can get more information on that event at the show notes page for today, workingcows.net/118. And we'll see you real soon with another episode of the Working Cows podcast with Glenn Elzinga.
We invite you to visit workingcows.net to subscribe to the show via iTunes or Stitcher. You'll also find detailed show notes pages, resources from our guests, and the industry leaders who have influenced them. For more ideas on putting your cows to work for you in a more profitable way, tune in next week.